Welcome to Table Talk with the Mighty. This week's Table Talk is made possible by Rare Weekly, a newsletter from themighty.com. I'm Skye, and today I'm joined by...
I'm Ashley.
I'm Kat.
And I'm Jess.
And today is all about cuffing season, illness style. Now, I was dumped about a year ago after a 3.5-year long relationship. But in the past year, I've really learned to value how to grow and maintain a sense of self-worth. And I'm looking for advice on how to continue to have that value and esteem for myself, but while in a relationship. So, my friends who are in healthy relationships, please teach me your ways. How do I stop seeing myself as a burden and constantly comparing myself to hypothetical partners? How do I have self-esteem and stay in a relationship as somebody with mental and physical illnesses?
Whoa, big questions there. I have two things. First of all, I would love to know how long everyone has been in the relationships, but also before we do that, Skye, what is cuffing season? Because this is a new term to me.
Oh, well, thank you to my younger sister for being always online for teaching me this. But so, it's cold out. It's the holidays. You want to cozy up with a snuggle buddy. This is the time when people are on the dating apps. They're partnering up.
Okay, got it. Feeling good. Ashley, tell us about your partner.
For sure. So I have been with my partner about 8.5 years now, and we are recently engaged. So that's a newer development in my relationship.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you.
My partner and I will have been together for 12 years in April, but we met when we were 12, which really just ups the ante there. What about you, Jess?
I love that. We have been together coming up on 18 years, but we just celebrated our 9-year wedding anniversary last month.
That's so nice to hear. I love hearing about everybody's relationships and everything. Ashley, can you please give me some advice based on your experience in your relationship?
I will say this is the really only relationship I've been in since my health changed significantly. But the person made all of the difference, and I can kind of explain why. So, when I got my cancer diagnosis, we were living long distance. I was at school in central New York, he was living in Washington, and long distance sucked already. But on top of that, I got diagnosed with cancer, had to go in for surgeries, all of that. And I remember him, that time was it was very hazy in a lot of ways, just because it was very hard on my mental health. And I think I blacked some of it out just because of how hard it was. But I do remember the thing that stuck out to me was he had just accepted his dream job like the day prior and was considering like moving a little bit. Got the call from me, declined that offer, and flew out to be with me during those surgeries. And that is a level that has never been met in any sort of capacity by anybody else in my life. And that was, we were a year into dating at that point. That's not like you're not together significantly long enough to, have that be almost like an expectation of someone. And so I thought that was, based on what happened in my other relationships, both like friendships and otherwise, like I was expecting that to be the end of it. And it wasn't. And that kind of told me a lot of what I needed to know about how I would kind of deal with things with him moving forward. Because despite that, man, there's been a lot of struggles with like how our mental health clash with each other, how our neurodivergence clash with each other. So I'll pass it for now, but we can get back to that in a little more detail. But like, to me, it was the type of person made the difference. And you can tell in those decisions.
Well, that's lovely. I will say that my situation is similar in the sense that this is really this is like my big relationship of my life. I had dated previously, but I thought it was just really terrible, which I think is why like I just knew that like Mike was my human. One thing that Mike has said to me over the years that really, really has stuck with me, which is the fact that like my illness is part of who I am, but it's not why he loves me. And that has always been very, very important to hear constantly, because it's very easy to feel like your illness makes you feel less than, you don't feel like you're bringing as much into the relationship. And so we actually have come up with a few phrases that we say to each other on really bad days. And I say it actually back to him. Like, he wasn't feeling well about a week ago, and I said the same stuff back. So some of the phrases that I really like are, "You're allowed to feel sick. You don't have to feel good all the time, and I'm not holding it against you." And we try and say those to each other. It kind of sounds like platitudes in a way when you kind of say them out of context, but I don't get tired of hearing them, because I think that each time my thoughts kind of cycle to the same area. So that's my one tip. My other thing that I really want to emphasize is, and this really helps me, I encourage him to have his own life. And that has made such a difference. He goes out to dinner with friends, he sees family, he'll go on a trip. I don't do any of those things with him, but I don't hold it against him. And that allows him to not hold my health against me. So I'm able to maintain my lane, he maintains his lane, and then we come together usually at the end of the day. So that's been really helpful. But Jess, as our married human in the group, tell me more about you.
So I'll say when we met, we had both previously been really unhealthy relationships, and so initially, neither one of us was looking for a relationship, wanting a relationship, ready for a relationship, and that was really clear in some of our beginning interactions. And like, we weren't ready for anything. Neither of us were. About a year and a half in, he got diagnosed with cancer, and then I got diagnosed with cancer, and a lot started changing for both of us in our health. I already had several diagnoses from when I was younger, and this all just kind of, that compounding factor as we add diagnoses on top. And for several years, we both tried to play the, oh, this isn't affecting me, this hasn't changed anything about me.
That's a
For
fun game.
it's a,
Love
it's
that
a
game.
super fun game.
Yeah, real good one. Yep. Absolutely, health does not change you whatsoever.
That didn't make an impact at all. I'm just tired for no reason, and that did not work. And so we've both had to go on our own, like, separate journeys around our health, then also coming back together in how we treat each other around our health, and how we talk to each other about our own health and about each other's health. And you know we both have, well, maybe he might have a little bit less tenderness around some of his than I do around mine, but there's areas that, like, that, like, you step a little lighter around what you say, and you just tread a little more lightly, because that there's that self-judgment, or just all the crap, right? Like, it's internalized ableism. It's all that crap that we tell ourselves, and the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. And just that, the awareness that it exists for both of us, and then the willingness to talk about it, and the willingness to figure out solutions. Like, a lot of times I end up needing a lot more rest than he does, or I need more than he's willing to take. And so I will sometimes push myself, because, well, he can do it, so can I. And he'll remind me, like, it's okay for you to rest. Like, it's okay for you to not do that. It's okay for you to go lay down, go read the book, do whatever the thing is that I'm struggling with allowing myself to do in that moment. And that's been just kind of an ongoing daily dance to figure out, like, what do we each need from day to day, and then the willingness to do something about it, and either change what we're thinking or saying, or how we're interacting with each other.
I just do want to quickly touch on that willingness aspect, because I think that's a huge key differentiator for people. You can have things that over the course of your relationship you recognize, individually or as a unit, that, like, need to change, and you're willing to do it. And you can recognize there are things that will never. And it's important to know where your lines are with those, because there are some things that will never change, and you have to either learn to, like, accept that, or learn that you can't accept that. And being able to find those lines for yourself is super important in feeling good about where your relationship is.
So, friends, what advice do you have for folks who, like me, are still looking for that person, or are looking forward to having a healthier relationship with a partner?
Ooh, love that question. Two things. One, you don't need a partner if you don't want one. It's okay to not have a person. We're not all like that, and that's all right. But two, I also would like to emphasize not to take anything away from how lovely I think we all are, but part of relationships is luck. Like, I met my partner when I was 12 at band camp, and it just happened that way. There was nothing I did with myself to put myself out there in a way, and I think that sometimes we think that people who are in relationships have just, like, done better in life or just have it all together, and really, meeting someone is happenstance. It just happens. So those are the two things that I would share.
I'd say I love the like random happenstance because like my partner and I found each other on Tumblr on accident, which is just like my favorite, funniest fact about our relationship. Definitely completely agree with what Kat has said. Also, you know, I think when you go searching for a relationship, it's much harder than when you wait and find that. And it's just that different kind of mental approach to it, like seeking out versus being in the right scenario in which you are both kind of open to that possibility. And then I think there's something to be said about we think a lot about what we're looking in other people, but we think less about like that self-reflection about like who we want to be in a relationship. And I think making sure you feel good about who you are going into those kind of, conversations, meetings with people can help you understand a lot of your own personal boundaries and those things that you care about the way you interact with other people as well.
And that's part of self-worth, right? Like, you do the whole, like, you gotta love yourself before you can love others, or before others can love you. There's actually, like, some level of truth there, because if you don't feel good about yourself or you don't feel worthy going into it, or very early on in a relationship, it's going to be very, very hard to rebound. So yeah, great point.
I'm going to yes and that one because I know that sometimes that saying can make people feel like they're not worthy of love until they love themselves. And so like I think it's a very nuanced expression. It's like we are all absolutely worthy of love even if we do not feel like we are and even if we do not feel like we love ourselves. And also like there's all these layers. I love layers. And I will say, like, Kat, what you said about luck is like, yeah, so much of finding people, meeting people, finding your person, like so much of it is luck. In my personal experience, I will say like the most impactful thing I think for us has been that, I mentioned we weren't ready when we met each other. We weren't looking for anything. And the biggest thing that has helped us stay together is that when we realized that there was more there than what we initially thought was there between us, we were willing to work together and separately to do what we needed to do individually and together to have a healthy relationship. And that looks different for everyone. Like, there's not a prescription you can give someone for like, these are the steps you need to take for having a healthy relationship, because it's going to look different for everyone. And you don't have to have a relationship. You don't have to have a relationship to be happy or healthy or be able to take care of yourself. And if you choose a relationship, then I would say the number one most impactful thing for your future happiness is the person you choose and their willingness to work through things on themselves and together and with you.
Wow, thank you so much for that advice. And I really appreciate what you all said also about like not needing a partner. I will say just to our to folks listening at home, I've really enjoyed dating myself, a la Ann Perkins from Parks and Rec. If you're not in a place for a partner, give that a whirl. That's my advice. I wish I had something like profound to say in response to all of the wonderful and vulnerable things you all just shared with me. Thank you so much for your insight and sharing your perspectives. You've all given me a lot to think about, even in my relationship with myself as I continue to date myself, and even going forward in a future relationship. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone else for joining us who's listening. If you want more conversations like this, subscribe to Rare Weekly by going to bit.ly/rareinbox. That's bit.ly/RAREINBOX. We'll see you in your inbox. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.